What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be officially reacting to the Cleveland Cavaliers general manager Koby Altman when he met the media for the first time since the season's ended. Now, I haven't heard this guy speak in a long time. Like, I think since the Jarrett Allen trade was the last time I've heard anything come out of this guy's mouth. So I decided to put my Cleveland Cavaliers hat on to see what it's all about. What's all this? Why is everyone speaking? Because a lot of people have been speaking all about this, and I really want to know what he's actually said. This video does go for 7 minutes, so without further ado, let's get straight into it.
I think for us, there's just a lot of optimism with where we are as a franchise. And to be honest with you, it's really tied to the young core. I've never had that
Koby Altman on his future.
From Dan. We've had really candid conversations this year. I've been here almost 10 years, and I know my guy pretty well.
So Dan Gilbert's the owner, for those of you who don't know.
It's interesting. Like, we're 3 short years removed from 4 straight finals. And when we came out of that, we really didn't have young talent or draft assets. We had to go.
Ooh, all right. This is where I'm going to critique what Koby Altman just said here. He's possibly right. Like, we didn't have really that many draft assets at all, because he, of course, had to trade, I think it was pick 25 to get, Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance to the team. But the issue that I see here is he could have had draft assets if he traded, Kevin Love instead of signing him to that max extension, if he traded maybe J.R. Smith in that offseason, if he traded George Hill in that offseason, completely just blew up the team. But he didn't. He didn't do that, and he decided to go in with the minimal draft assets, and that did not help us out very much long-term at all. So I'm going to kind of critique a little thing that he just said then, but it is what it is, I suppose. But let's continue
go
on.
All in, which is the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, well, he said, as he just said, did go all in.
What Dan allowed us to do is rip the Band-Aid right away and replenish our draft assets and build through the draft. And he gave us an extension, not just myself, the entire front office, an extension 2 years ago, because he believed in our leadership and he believed in our plan. And he wanted, and he saw some of the fruits of our labor. I think since we've taken over, we've added 3 additional first-round picks. We've added 13 additional second-round picks. Okay, we've added 4 really talented players through the draft, and we're going to add another one. And I think that.
Hold on a second. You actually added 5 really talented players to the draft, but you traded Kevin Porter Jr. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Dylan Windler was a good pick now, looking back at it. He could prove me wrong, but I don't think Windler was a good pick. That's my critique on that statement. He did draft Kevin Porter Jr. That was an outstanding draft pick. But, of course, he ended up trading him, which I'm hoping he'll get onto a little bit later. But Dylan Windler, that was not a good pick. There could have been other players he could have, of course, taken with that 25th overall pick. Darius Garland was a great selection. That's one of the best selections, in my opinion, in Cavaliers franchise history, because I believe this guy could be a future All-Star. Sexton was a good pick as well, and Isaac Okoro was a... Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the pick goes. I think it was a good pick. We'll just have to see, but he's done pretty well with his drafting. I mean, look, he's done 5 players. 4 of them ended up being successful. Really, well, technically 3, because 1 ended up leaving. And Dylan Windler, no, let's not talk about him. But he's just been injured the whole time. It's just a
right. If we again, like I said before, if we missed on some of these picks, right, and we haven't been gifted a top 3 pick yet,
that is very true. Very true.
Nothing that was sort of like hands down. You have to draft that guy. I think
very
we've done remarkably well to where we are now, 3 years removed from really not having much. And so I think that, I know that's how he's judging us. I do think that, we as an organization.
See, the way he's kind of basing off the critique that has been given to him now is he's kind of saying, well, look at this. You can give me all the critique that you want. Let's just say Dan Gilbert was to fire Koby Altman in a year or so. Koby Altman can always say now to, like, the end of time that if he was to get fired, like, either tomorrow or the next year, that he didn't get He didn't have very many good draft picks, and he's completely right. The Cavaliers fell down from pick 2 to pick 5 2 years in a row and did not win the lottery with Colin Sexton with pick 8. They've been in the lottery 3 years, and every year they've either fell or stagnated. That is a very hard thing on Koby Altman. I really hope we can win the lottery this year. I don't have faith that we will at all, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm hoping that we will, but I don't have faith in it at all. I think it's more likely we'll fall down than we'll win it. But he does have that to say, and what he said really kind of spoke to me was that there wasn't a one player that he had to pick. For example, in 2018 when he chose Colin Sexton, he could have picked Michael Porter Jr., which was a pretty good pick, looking back at it. That he picked Colin Sexton and Michael Porter Jr. was as well. Or he could have picked Kevin Knox, which he didn't, and that ended up being a very, very good pick. 2019, he picked Darius Garland. He didn't have to pick Garland. He could have picked Jarrett Culver, like most people were saying. And now when we look at it, that was a great pick by him. And then Isaac Okoro, he picked Isaac Okoro at 5. He could have picked Denny Avdija or Obi Toppin. And right now, the time making this video, it looks like Okoro will be better than both of them. So I think he's done a pretty good job. And again, he is kind of right when he says that there was no specific player that the Cleveland Cavaliers had to pick with their selections. He is really right with that. Like, that's probably the best thing that he said so far.
Organization wanted to take a step forward with this young talent, but
which he has. Darius Garland has taken a step forward too.
I think we're in remarkably healthy shape, and that's the conversations I have about it with him. About what's Isaac going to do this offseason. I'm excited about what I saw.
It needs to improve his three-point shooting.
Dan's still very much engaged, and we've had great conversations about the future. I think he can really help us. I really do. And what was hard for him this year is he was never fully healthy. He missed a significant amount of time. I'm going to
give him a couple more seconds.
With a calf injury. Probably came back too soon, even though he missed almost 40 games. That sent him back again. And then when he finally came back, he wasn't fully healthy. What I will say is when you saw the biggest jump from Darius was when Kevin came back. And that's not a coincidence. Darius put together.
All right. A couple of things of what he just said. Yes, it's true that Darius Garland probably got better when Kevin Love played. But that's not because Kevin Love's a good player. That's because Kevin Love's a decent catch-and-shoot player. With the $30 million that this man is giving Kevin Love, we could have multiple elite catch-and-shoot players around Darius Garland, which would take this Cavaliers team from down here, right, all the way down here, to, like, up. But you keeping Kevin Love makes no sense whatsoever. It is a terrible decision to keep Kevin Love on this team. He does not want to be here. His leadership is terrible. He is not a good leader to these, younger players. He throws the ball around, has tantrums on the court, and acts like a complete, I don't even know what word to refer to Kevin Love to sometimes. But then the other times, he can be an alright leader, but those other times are very slim. 95% of the time, he has not been a good leader for these young guys. He has really stolen $30 million from us. Colin Sexton even liked that tweet saying that Kevin Love literally stole $30 million from the Cavs, the greatest heist in NBA history. The thing is as well is he's taking 30 minutes up of these younger players that these younger players could have. Now, I get it. This season, we didn't have a young power forward. But he should be going out in free agency and getting a young power forward to give 30 minutes a game to see if this power forward can develop. We aren't going anywhere with Kevin Love and his $30 million contract. Let him go elsewhere. Just get someone in that is relatively young maybe, or a solid power forward. Go get some catch and shooters. Use that $30 million elsewhere. The statement of him just saying, Kevin Love is has been, injured and all that type of stuff is true, but will this guy fully ever come back healthy? And it's not like he's motivated to get healthy. I know that doesn't sound necessarily right, but you guys will know if you're a sports player and you guys get injured, usually something will motivate you to get back. Like if for your love of the game, love of basketball, it will make you want to come back. It doesn't seem like Kevin Love even wants to be there on the Cleveland Cavaliers, which he doesn't. He doesn't want to be there. And that's putting it simply. Kevin Love doesn't want to be on the Cavs. He's not a good leader. It's time to move on, Koby Altman. It's just a mess right now.
Together a large chunk of games, almost 25 games, where he was.
He misses bloody 100 million games every year.
Creativity, imagination, real production. And when you ask Darius, does Kevin help you? How does he help you? Do you like playing with Kevin? His eyes light up because there's so much more.
Yeah, but you could ask Darius if he loves playing with Bogdan Bogdanovic, and I'm sure the guy would go, yes. Like, it's just like, you give this dude catch and shooters, he's going to want to play with them. It's not just Kevin Love. You know what I mean? Like, saying something like that is a little bit silly and ridiculous, because if you were to say, hey, Darius, would you rather play with Kevin Love next season, or would you rather play with, like, Tim Hardaway, Bogdan Bogdanovic, or, like, Evan Fournier, a couple of those players? I'm sure he'll pick that.
Spacing on the floor, and Kevin knows how to play. Kevin creates a gravity to our offense, and the guys love playing with him because of that. Now, he needs to get right, Tom. He needs to get his body right. This is a significant offseason for him to get his legs underneath him.
Hopefully on a different team.
And he showed some glimpses of what he can do for us. I think his last game he played for us had 6 3-pointers, and it was fun to watch the Kevin of old there. But I think he has a place here with us because we need that veteran leadership. When we talk to the younger group about that leadership, Kevin does that for us, and off the court as well. And so we want him to be here. We signed him to an extension for that reason, to be here when we want to make that next step. And so we're going to hopefully rely on him heavily next year after a significant summer.
Oh my
Andre was great for us.
God. Rely on him heavily. He's like 32, 33 years old, injury prone, does not want to be the terrible leader, and you're going to rely on him heavily? Look, everything he said with the draft makes sense. It makes sense that the Cavs have been robbed of some good picks, potentially. And that he hasn't had the best picks to, pick from. There hasn't been players that he was 100% supposed to pick. Everything he said about the draft was pretty much right. But everything he just said about Kevin Love was pretty much wrong. So many issues with everything he just said then. Jeez, I could take a whole video about what everything he just said was wrong. But
we got him at the deadline at
Koby Altman on Andre Drummond.
Cost. And he was a calculated risk. And we had some success with Andre. Andre, I think it's very transparent that when we go out and trade for a future franchise center who's 22 years old at the time, that there was going to be some tension there. And we tried to make it work. But when you trade for somebody that plays your position, that is a significant piece to our future, that's going to be tough. And so I don't know how I needed to explain that versus we tried to make it work, actually. Brought Jared off the bench. We actually tried to start them together.
That is true.
Didn't work.
Now, look, I know that bringing in Andre Drummond might not look like the best thing, but I actually think it was a pretty good thing by Koby Altman. The reason why I actually think bringing in Drummond wasn't a bad decision at all is because you pretty much gave up a second-round pick to improve Darius Garland. Now, look, if it wasn't for Andre Drummond, I don't think Garland would have been this good this season. I think Garland learnt so much in the off-season, throwing lobs to Andre Drummond, doing pick and rolls with Andre Drummond. I think he learned a lot more than what he would have with like a Tristan Thompson. So pretty much to give up a second round pick, which probably wasn't going to be that good anyway, for, making Darius Garland so much of a better player, in my opinion, was probably worth it. And they would have sold a bunch of jerseys, and it's not like Drummond really took minutes away from anyone because Allen ended up getting his minutes in the end. So it's a bit of a trade, but it's also like he didn't lose it. He probably won more than what he lost because, again, he got Darius Garland to be a much better player. So fair enough to him.
And it was tough for Andre. It wasn't fair to Andre. I know Andre for a very long time. I've known him since he's 16 years old in USA Basketball when I was a lowly towel kid. And he's a great dude. And I didn't want to put him in a position where going into a contract year that we're going to play him less and mess up his stats. I wasn't going to do that to him. And so we came to a resolution with him and his agent that made sense for him to sit out and still be with the team, still get his workout in. If we couldn't come to a trade resolution, we were going to let him go to wherever he wanted to go. And I'm really happy that he's on a team that has a chance to win a championship. And I'm personally really happy for him. But nothing was done wrong to him. And I don't quite understand. I don't know how else I can explain that. And I wouldn't have done a press conference based on that. It was challenging. It was a very difficult decision
there we go.
that we had to make. A lot of it I'm going to keep private, and obviously I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds, but I'll tell you this, Jason, it wasn't for lack of effort from both parties. I think we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources trying to make it work, trying to reingratiate him to the team. This thing's fragile. It's a fragile thing. And the culture that we're trying to create, we have to have a level of integrity.
Okay. How come it's working on the Houston Rockets then? Why didn't it work at Cleveland? Answer me that. Why didn't it work at Cleveland, but it's working at the Houston Rockets? That's number one. Number two is, what kind of, chemistry and what's the word that he referred to it? Culture. What kind of culture are you trying to build at Cleveland, where you've got a dude like Kevin Love, who does not want to be there, is taking $30 million away from you a season, has terrible leadership, and throws his crap on the field every time he gets mad? And again, terrible leadership. What kind of culture is that? What kind of culture is that in Cleveland when you got a dude like that? Honestly, is it too a bad thing to say that Kevin Love is an embarrassment? Look, he got the Cavs a ring. Don't get me wrong, that's awesome by Kevin Love. I used to love, Kevin Love, but right now he's staying on the team. He's not being a good leader. He knew what he was getting into when he signed that huge contract. He's not being a good leader, as I said. He's, he's not playing well. He's always injured, which I guess you could say is probably not his fault, but necessarily it's always a situation of how much does that not playing well come into the injury? Because I think sometimes he's not playing well just because he doesn't want to be there. Again, that's another thing. He just doesn't want to be at Cleveland anymore. He just wants the money, and that's why he signed the contract. He didn't sign because he really wants to be there or anything like that. He's publicly spoken saying that he wants to be probably at Portland right now. What kind of culture is that?
We have to have a level of integrity that we're trying to live by, and grow that young talent to hopefully win. And so, and that doesn't, that's for everybody. And so I think the change of scenery was needed from both parties. We wish him nothing but the best in Houston. I know him personally. We're recruiting him. Like I said, we scouted him extensively. I knew sort of the background. We took him. And
you knew the background, you knew everything that he's gone through and all of his issues, but you still decided to take him, but then decided to trade him when he was going through these issues that you knew about. What? I don't get it. I don't get it, but it was
a calculated risk. And
calculated risk. Alright, well that was the end. Alright, so that was Koby Altman and his fantastic press conference. Look, there was actually a couple of things to take in from that. First of all, what he said about the draft. Really, everything he said about the draft was pretty spot on. The only thing that's probably not spot on was when he said that he took 4 quality players. He actually took 5 at the end of the day, at the start of it. But then, of course, Kevin Porter Jr. went. Dylan Windler's proven to not be that great of a player. So he's probably 3 out of 5 at the moment. So I'm interested to see what he can do this year. So 3 out of 5, that's better than 50%, but it's still probably not a good stat on succession rate. But we will see how he goes. The Drummond thing made a lot of sense. Everything he said about Drummond was actually alright. I'm not mad at him getting Drummond at all. I think it benefited us a little bit more than a lot of people think it did. Third thing, Kevin Love. Everything he said about Kevin Love was wrong. He's not a good leader. He does not want to be in Cleveland. You need to get rid of him, please. Come on, how long does it take? And the Kevin Porter Jr. thing was a little bit ridiculous. Like, he decided to give away Kevin Porter Jr.'s locker. If he never did that, we probably wouldn't be speaking about this right now. It's a bit stupid, but of course, I would very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for all the latest NBA content and NBA news. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, MIRL/Long Channels. And don't forget to check out my podcast as well if you haven't already, which I'll link all of them in the description down below. And also, just don't forget to comment, what do you guys think about this press conference? Do you guys like everything Koby Altman said? Do you guys agree with some stuff? Do you disagree with others? I'd very much like to hear all of that in the comment section down below. But of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, MIRL/Long Channels, if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.